Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's session. Do you actually help your buyers? The Buyer Enablement Credit Score with Mark Green. My name is Ty Sartor, and I'm the Buyer Enablement Engineer at Consensus, and I'll also be your moderator for today's session. DEMOFEST is presented by Consensus. Consensus is an automated intelligent demo software that helps scale pre-sales with interactive video demos. To learn more, you can visit goconsensus.com. You can also view the automated micro demo we've created by clicking the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. Consensus is proud to provide this session and these events for free to all attendees. However, we would love to encourage you and invite you to join us in donating to our company's humanitarian organizations if you'd like to do so. You can learn more about this and donate by visiting the DEMOFEST Gives a Back booth in our virtual expo hall in the Booths tab, or at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We also invite you to join the DEMOFEST community on Discord. Our community is where you can connect with speakers, get access to exclusive content and events, and it's also where the conversation is going to continue long after DEMOFEST has ended. We encourage all attendees to join us, as well as so many others, and you can do so by clicking on the link in the Docs tab. Before we begin, I want to just go through a couple of housekeeping things with you. We encourage you to participate in today's session. On the right of your console, you can see a few ways to engage with us throughout the session today. The chat function, which will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees. Also, throughout the session, you may see a few polls. We encourage you to participate as your feedback is important to us. Our speaker will be taking us from the audience and taking questions at the end of the session, but we encourage you to ask those questions at any time through the Q&A box. And at any time you have any technical difficulties, you can head to the gear icon on the bottom of your screen. Here you will see the help document. This will help you troubleshoot common issues if you have some. And now I would love to introduce our speaker. After connecting with people and technology for over 20 years in retail, MOD, ERP, finance, and HCM, Mark now leads the global buyer enablement mission at Consensus, engaging growing companies to expand their pre-sales impact while reducing the cost of complexities of scale. You may also know him from his time on 2 Pre-Sales in a Pod and his Burning Pre-Sales podcasts. And with that said, I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much indeed, Ty. It is it's not only great to work with you, but be part of DEMOFEST with you moderating as well. So that's excellent. So in that case, without further ado, I will start sharing my screen and we shall continue. So I'm sure you'll all see, being great pre-sales people, he shared the window, not the tab. What a fail. Don't worry. There's a reason for that. All will become clear very soon. Don't forget to use the chat. I can see that some people are diving into the session already. The Q&A is going to be over there. We're going to have a good conversation at the end as well, and so get your questions in first if you'd like them answered, or just ask really great questions. The session today is all about how well are you serving your buyers? So how do we understand how helpful you're being? Well, we'll come on to that. We'll find our way there, and at the end, hopefully we'll have some great ways in which you can achieve that. So this is the first ever checkout till. Back in 1879, a guy called James Ritty came up with this because James ran a shop. Now, unfortunately, the people in this shop didn't do what people should do in a shop, i.e. they just gave stuff away. Now, this was very bad for business. But when James was on an onboard ship one day, he saw that there was a mechanism for counting the revolutions of the propeller. He thought, I could use this. Look at the way that it's logging the number of revolutions. Well, I could do the same with the number of things that I'm selling. And so he came up with this, which is why this till looks like a clock. It's a bit odd, but it worked. And it worked for hundreds of years. Now, the company still exists. He sold it to a company called NCR, and that company is still around today. Unfortunately, we've all experienced this. The shopping till is a painful barrier between the excitement of browsing around a shop, picking out what you want, doing the shopping, and taking that product home and using it or sharing it with other people. In between that, there is a painful part called purchasing. And this is what we're trying to help people with. Things have not changed. There is still a till. in order to make this to happen. Now, I mean, you can probably feel the setup, right? So what's coming next? Well, certainly that checkout process, 78%, of course, bringing a stat, 78% of buyers found that either they felt they weren't confident that the product fitted their needs, or the checkout process was overly complex. So tills were essential until they weren't. Amazon removed the checkout till. They removed that pane entirely. So this is a picture of a lady at a shop called Whole Foods in 2022. Amazon introduced the just walk out technology. Everyone thought you had to have a checkout, so the same way as everyone thinks you have to get sales folk to push buyers through sales stages. Until today. Now you don't. And as with market forces shifting as expectations during lockdown meant that people are far more keen to adopt newer, easier way to achieve the change they need, things like immediacy and ease are not just goals, they're requirements in the way that you do that. So we'll be looking at some of those actions that B2B folks must complete for a purchase, and how some can be done by a vendor and some really can't. So here we have the buyer journey, quite falsely in a straight line. But for now, let's go with it. For years, we've had different departments serving different parts of the journey that buyers take. Each step focuses on a certain part of that journey and must have some kind of handover of the responsibility to that buyer to the next. Hopefully, maintaining consistency of both message, value, and in my personal opinion, most importantly, trust. But even given the narrow window within which pre-sales must operate, there's now an associated cost that's far more understood for delivering that service. The way we do it here at Consensus, and you'll see from loads of our other presenters here at DEMOFEST, is the rise of the horizontal function called Buyer Enablement. These folks use pre-sales skills to enhance the entire buying journey in a scaled way. Now, it's all important to understand these are not replacements for the incredibly valuable, essential, and well-loved functions like marketing, professional services, etc., but rather they use digitally scaled methods to enhance what each offers, bringing that authentic pre-sales voice earlier and later into the buyer's project. What we're seeing then is the most effective and valuable pre-sales organizations find places to scale their power without increasing the cost. Impact can now be spread across the whole buying journey at no detriment to existing costs, and in fact quite the opposite. And right at the end of this presentation, which is a massive tease, I know, we're going to be looking at exactly that, of the ways you can understand where you apply what cost. I think it's fascinating. That's why I do it as a job. So, I mean, this graphic is quite old now. If you look very closely, I think it's from it was originally done in 2018. The Gartner graphic doesn't even start to cover the journey when you involved what's now an industry norm of between 10 and 15 stakeholders for B2B SaaS software. Now, in my own experience, when I rolled out Consensus across many parts of my previous company, Sage, this is how I planned my project. As you can see, we've got a lot to handle, and only one small part of that was the purchase. So if buyers are heading out into these rough seas of economic uncertainty with complex projects, how can we apply Amazon's reframing of the situation to SaaS software buying journeys? Well, let's have a look into what the buying journey actually is first. So there's 8 stages. So we'll go through those briefly. First, buyers realize that change is possible. Perhaps they feel then discontent owing to their business pains and challenges. A little bit like if you see a movie poster or a billboard for a movie you haven't seen, and you're like, now I realize that the next movie is out. That's brilliant. Next problem is, You are not currently watching that movie. Well, there's different things and ways you can solve that pain. And with business, it's exactly the same. Next, they'll need to research what to change. So maybe there's 20 things they'd love to change, only 10 of them realistically possible, and then they'll decide to focus on 5 of those for phase 1. They'll then need to find a vendor to help them affect that change, so they'll compare options and vendors, and this is where pre-sales has historically focused. Next, the very personal fear of getting it wrong. The ownership of commitment. I have felt that acutely, and it's something that our buyers also feel. And so we should really understand that and find ways to help them over that very emotional step. Then the delivery of the project, which, of course, your SaaS software could be part of the delivery as well, but this is of the whole project rather than just the tool. It's got to meet the expectations of the business and ultimately drive satisfaction of the whole thing. But wait, we've missed something. So we've been talking about the buyer journey, things like that. But we all know that there's loads of stakeholders involved these days. How are we going to manage all of those people? Well, here we have our champion on their journey around all these stages. Our champion is someone who a vendor is working with and is most invested in the project's success. A fan of your software likes it, but champions will stake their own personal success on the success of the project overall. Now, there's many stakeholders involved. Here we see the finance director or CFO. They're still researching what they want to change, even though the champion feels they're ready to sign. Understanding and mapping these stakeholders then is vital. In fact, it's one of the most vital parts of any deal, which so few people do properly. Of course, I wouldn't be true to myself, my roots, if I left out IT. That's where I started my career and have a big passion for it. Please prepare for these other stakeholders and other ones that you could meet along the way. IT particularly, because they wield a very real power of no for many SaaS software purchases, so forget them at your peril. Now here, this is an example of the types of stakeholders that one of our customers that I was working with manages with their buying journeys. As you read down this list, do you manage stakeholders like these? And do you tailor your self-served content to their individual needs? There's a big list of people, big list of different types of people, different places, different industries. These are all different types of stakeholders that you should be conscious about understanding whether or not you're meeting their needs, because you forget that CFO, they will turn into a blocker because they were left out. This project doesn't involve them. Well, you can sort that. Yes, Marta, that's a lot of meetings. So this is a buyer matrix. This is a great way to map these people out with their desires captured in analytics. And you can dive deeper into the data on these disparate, disconnected stakeholders, many of which you'll never get to talk to. But there's many styles of doing this. This is the one that I believe in the most. So we've sorted the buyers. We know who they are and what stage they're at. Next, we have to apply methods to address their needs and shift from trying to move buyers through sales stages to getting buyers to move themselves through buying stages. You are, in effect, helping your buyers to build a better boat, or in this case, a ship. But build a better boat, alliterated so beautifully, I had to leave that in. But yes, it has a big oil ship, I would imagine. So they're trying to traverse these seas. You may as well try to help them. So let's have a look at the ways in which we can do that and how historically people have been doing that. So let's have a look at the 5 buyer enablement levels. It's a method of understanding the maturity of your shipbuilding approach, how strong or not each step is of your buyer's journey with you. Let's run through them briefly. Back in the day, there was very little automation or technology for pre-sales. Other than PowerPoint, it was basically RFP tools that provided ways for pre-sales to really scale their power. Then, with the rise of SaaS software and cloud adoption, by 2019, almost every company had some way of standing up a proof of concept system for folks to have a play with. That's the, here, have a go, try it out yourself. But this product-led growth approach was only good if you had comparatively simple software, which is pretty tough if you had hidden value or needed more than 1 hour's training in the software. And of course, it completely ignored anything that wasn't software. So it wasn't services or experience or the people or case studies. In 2020, demo automation was reborn for pre-sales in a way that solved those boring overview or harbor tour demos. Now, I call them boring. They're not boring. I know they're wonderful, but they're very easy to do after a while. And in terms of bringing value to an organization, someone sitting there day after day doing harbor tours, that's not a valuable use of that person. Matt says harbor tours are boring. Well, yes, perhaps they are. Last time I was in New York, I'm afraid I didn't even bother doing the harbor tour. Sorry to anybody from New York. I'm sure I will be back. So this ushered in a wave of innovation in the industry, that buyers could get a kickstart by themselves in learning about your products or services in a tracked way, because of course, we all know that data is king. This selling in the gaps made your live meetings way more productive. By 2022 then, demo automation was well established. As many of you may know, as you're attending DEMOFEST, and people were pushing the boundaries of what it could be used for. Turns out that after experiencing a great self-service path into a deal, buyers wanted to continue that enhanced experience for the rest of the project as well. So the other stages of the buying journey were now being supported by these modern methods. Lastly, then, this year, we're seeing a whole bunch of customers across the world using Consensus for the delivery of demos after the sale as well. Some of them are presenting here at DEMOFEST. Like when new features are available and the content has already been made by the pre-sales team, or the expansions team needs pre-sales help, the customer journey then gets enhanced in these wonderful ways. So now the value stage of those 8 stages is now impacted by pre-sales prowess, which as a pre-sales pro is something I love. But that's a lot to take in, and we've covered a huge amount of things in a very short space of time. So sure, I mean, you'll be able to go back and watch this session. You'll be able to send the session to other people. But how do you capture, how do you do a bit of work to figure some of this stuff out in your own time for your own business? Well, I've created a little calculator for you to help work through these steps. It's a little bit like I've created a tool for the pre-sales industry to check their Buyer Enablement Credit Score. I can't lay claim to that phrase, although very catchy it is. I'd like to say thank you to Rex Galbraith for that, our wonderful CRO. It focuses, just like this presentation, on understanding the difficulty of your buyer's journey, which, remember, is their change project, not just the software purchase. And it puts it up against the support you provide in helping them build a strong enough ship to achieve that success. The difficulty test is designed to identify How difficult is it for your buyer champion to move the change project from inception to completion? It is not intended to show you how hard it is for you to sell the software. The support test is designed to identify how enabled your buyer stakeholders are through their change journey and how you do that. So let's go and take a look. And of course, I wouldn't be pre-sales passionate without having a literal demo in DEMOFEST. So this is our website. Go up to resources. Have to stay away from the blog because there's so much in there. You'll end up reading for ages. This is the buyer level assessment, or buyer enablement level assessment for long. So if you want a quick refresher about the need, learn, buy, value stages, you can click on the guide there. But the idea is it's very simple for you to go through and select things like software complexity. How complex is your software? Your software is, of course, the most impactful. But sometimes it can be simple, and that's okay. Let's imagine it's best if configured by a specialist. The buyer has some set processes, but can adopt some built-in processes. Now, this is because some small companies are very happy to just do things the way the software says. But as software grows in size, you end up with software that has to be able to mold itself to very set existing processes within an organization. And that's why we have the different sizes and scales of software. So we'll select that one. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these in length because it's going to be a nice engaging session rather than just watching someone do some clicking. However, we'll select that this project is going to take 6 months. We're going to say 10 to 15 stakeholders. And we get over on the right-hand side, the difficulty test results. Now, this is a brief overview of the test result. What you get as a result of filling this in is a more detailed document that goes through what that means and some ways in which you can address those needs. So 20 out of 30. So it's complex. You're going to have to do a bit of work for that. That sounds quite familiar, to be honest. So the support test, how as a vendor are you helping these people through that? What is your shipbuilding skills like? So how much do you do BE level 1? Yeah, you've got documents, RFPs come in, you respond to those, you've got various tailored stuff. Excellent. Have a go yourself. Can they try your software? Well, maybe they don't have a full proof of concept day-to-day lives, but maybe they try live, maybe they try it with a faked version of the software. Early need stage. Okay, so buyers must find their way through. Can they book a meeting? Yep, we're going to do that one. And then for those ones, we do this. And for the 5th one, training and supports customer CS. Okay. Of course, this is fully compliant with GDPR because I used to work in data security, and it's on the top of my list. When you then click that button, you'll get a PDF download, and then you'll be able to see some lovely stuff. So that's what I created, and I really hope you find it useful. If not for the ultimate answer for all of your questions, a jumping off point for many of the different activities that you can do to help make sure that your buyers are served in really great, surprisingly helpful ways. So let's flick back then to the presentation, and we'll have a look at what's next, because we've figured out many things, but there is really, really important part of this session, and it's about trust state changes. Now, I can hear Ty in the background very excitedly looking at this, because This is Ty. This is Ty and me when we met up recently and we did a workshop. So Ty on the left here is a vital part of my buyer enablement team here at Consensus. And we got together recently for a buyer journey workshop. So I'm sharing the outcomes with you today. The yellow virtual post-it notes, and there's a big shout out to Miro here. Absolutely love Miro. Yeah, some of the examples of the activities that stakeholders must action. And in green are some of the methods they can use to accomplish them. This is a good activity to do with your team. So first, practice by writing down any buying actions involved with something like going to a restaurant or buying a new iPhone at an Apple store. Ty, by the way, has done many great things. One is that he used to run a very successful Apple store. And then apply that same method to your product. What is it that people need to do in order to check off the little tick box of, yep, it can do that. Next question, the validating. Remember, pre-sales historically very much involved in the comparison. So can your product do the features, but also, as you can see from the post-its, loads more. Of course, you can screenshot it, but we'll be providing the session here, and we'll be providing it in a demo as well, so you can watch it all back. So these are the methods that people normally use to solve some of the questions that they have that come up during a buying process. They might use word of mouth. They're going to ask someone, hey, does this actually work? Well, they can't ask the vendor that. The vendor will say, yeah, yep, definitely works. Perhaps it's marketing. So it's looking on the website. Perhaps they've Googled it. Perhaps it's a demo. Obviously, that's something very close to my heart. But you don't need a demo for all things. We'll come on to that in a minute. I know, terrible. Don't need a demo for all things. You could have a demo for many of them. This trust state that we're talking about, the tick-tock of every action. Tick, there's no trust. They don't believe that your product can do the thing that they want it to. Tock. The pre-sales person or the salesperson or whatever says, yep, it'll do it. And they go, oh, brilliant, here's some money. Well, I mean, it's never that easy, but it's also never that the person doesn't trust you. But if you look at the micro level for each action, it's a really useful way to look at it. So the action we're going to look at for an example is, imagine you are the CFO. You have to check if the new reporting system that you're going to bring in does waterfall reports in a way that you'll be able to use. Now, I'm sure all of the finance reporting systems can do waterfall reports, but can they do it in a way that is going to make you feel comfortable enough to say, yeah, I'm happy with that. I take personal responsibility for having checked that. So where is that person's trust? Well, imagine that their current trust is they're fairly sure someone has said that it doesn't do what they need. And then it moves then to, okay, yeah, I do trust that, that I've seen it. I can see that it works. And I trust that that can do what we need. That is one action of the trust state change. And the number of actions, you saw the number of post-it notes on the previous screen. There's loads of them. Now, those are handled by different people, different stakeholders, different people within the vendor, and different people within the buyer's organization. It could be that most organizations would say, okay, they've asked a question about waterfall reporting. Let's create a demo. And they get their pre-sales person involved, salesperson involved. They set up a meeting. The champion then has to corral the CFO. Good luck. The finance director, some other end users, the report builder person, all going to get into a meeting when all that actually had to happen was that trust state had to change And so did you need a meeting for that? Are you spending your time and money valuably there? Perhaps you could have pre-recorded a demo. Perhaps the CFO would be happy to see that on your website that you do waterfall reporting. You can see what it looks like, and so that's all that's needed. But you have to go through the exercise. In this case, a demo, a fact sheet, and talking to their personal network may be all that's needed. And you can, as a vendor, you can help with some of those. You can not help with others. You can't make them go and talk to their network, but they're probably going to. So you're totally out of control of some of these. So it's best to understand which ones, and this will give you a good idea of where to focus. These are the things that we've been looking at, right? But there's a fourth. The actual cost to the vendor versus the cost to the buyer. And we're starting to look at efficiencies of this buyer journey. We're trying to make sure that what we create doesn't cause inefficiencies in the way in which you make deals happen. Because it's all very well saying that you create loads of content, you're really, really scaling, but are you scaling in the right place? Now, Burning Presales podcast, of course, I've got to do a little bit of plug for that. Laura Krebs was on recently, and she did 2 episodes. One was where to do demo automation, and one was why and how to do demo automation. So I would definitely recommend jumping onto Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Go and have a look at that. Every single action, trust, state change, and method has an associated cost. As I said, either to me or to the buyer or both. This can be either time or money, and remember there are both those. Don't just think about it in terms of money, because when you're trying to attach some value to the CFO, they might be busy, and so you need to tune the right approach to the right person, and that means understanding what you're providing, what it's helping your buyer with, and how efficient that approach is. So you're going to have this grid. It will probably look different to this. You could do it in a spreadsheet. You could do it however, but you could just leave it as Post-it notes. You could do it in Miro, but you have to understand which ones are costing you money. Because if you do the wrong ones of these, all you end up doing is busy work. And with the economic climate, lots of people talking about downturn. The session I just moderated just now was about how to manage your team in an in the tough economic crisis. You need to spend money in the right place. So when you go and ask for money, you can prove that you're putting it in the right place. So let's look at a summary then. We've gone through the buyer journey difficulty. We understand that now. We are now also understand the buyer journey support, how amazing you are, which of course is very amazing because you're at DEMOFEST and you're all awesome. And the trust state changes, which is a way in which you can understand how to work out what the support you're providing, what the actual effect is, and what it costs you and what it costs your buyers. So I'd like to ask you again, right back at the start when we looked, how well are you serving your buyers? Well, I'd like to ask you again, do some of the stuff that we've been talking about today. Understand where you're spending the money, where you don't need to spend the money, because you can change a whole load of those trust states and it doesn't cost you anything. You just have to enable the champion to do it for their organization well enough. In terms of enabling the champion, I will thoroughly recommend Garen's book, Selling is hard, buying is harder. That book literally changed my career. I read that book and changed jobs and followed a dream that I've not looked back, because the amount of people that get benefit out of this is just, it's wildly rewarding, and it's just wonderful to be part of this industry. I'll leave you finally with a personal message about all of this. Your own ship may take you many places, and with strong ships, you can help buyers through rough waters. But remember where you're headed, and wherever you end up, try to keep that focus on what you're creating. Because either you're a weather vane, just following the wind, with no real control over your own direction or destiny, or you're a compass, and you intentionally create a bright and better future for your buyers, and a bright and better future for your pre-sales and buyer enablement teams. And I'd love you to connect with me on LinkedIn, on the event chat, in the DEMOFEST Discord channel, and also at DEMOFEST X in London, Dublin, New York, and more. Make sure you're registered, because the one last time in London was the biggest in-person pre-sales event that's ever happened on the planet. And coming from London, I intend to make the same this year as well. So I'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. It's an honor. And I will now stop sharing and pass back to Ty for some Q&A. Don't forget to put some questions in the Q&A or stick them in the chat. We're looking at both. What was that event? So there was a London DEMOFEST X. DEMOFEST X is a live in-person event where we can all get together and be real people and do things like DEMOFEST, things where it's not about consensus. I might be from consensus, but the thing that absolutely makes it great for me is that it's an event about the people from the industry. We've got amazing people here at the industry, and you can come and see them present at DEMOFEST X. So definitely sign up. Look forward to seeing you there, Sarah, if you can make it. So Ty, I saw there was a question in the Q&A. Tell me more.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions. I want to encourage everyone to go ahead and add some questions if you have so now, while Mark attempts to answer some of these here. I've also gone ahead and linked some links for you to the Buying is Hard book, as well as the Burning Pre-Sales podcast that you can see in the chat. We'll start with Matt's question. So Matt asked, is there a roadmap of some kind that you deliver to a prospect to help them understand the most effective way for them to navigate their journey?
Oh, I love that question. Yes, there is. There is an answer. And of course, as with everything, there's a short answer and a long answer. So I'll give the short answer for now, but feel free to connect with me and we can go through the long answer as well. The short answer really is that, as with Garen's book, the reason that he wrote it was because he went through the buying process a bunch of times, and he was like, I'm not good at this. You know, I'm very good at what my company does, but buying the software or the services to implement, to make the change, the types of change, however good I am, they do it all the time. But it's a humble thing. You have to go and you have to realize that that you need help. And I think it's an okay thing to say, you know. In terms of a roadmap, then, the best thing that you can do for your buyers is signpost all of the activities that they're likely to come across. And so you kindly prepped, so you asked the question at what is for me 6:16, and then we came on to all of the buyer actions, all of the yellow post-it notes. So I would say work with your buyers, show them that post-it note work, and get them to work out which ones they agree are the way that things that they want to handle. It might be that they go, oh, there's loads here, and you go, but that's fine. All of this bunch we do for you. Oh, isn't that nice? Or all of these ones, they sound hard, but look, we've got these guides. One of them is get buy-in from your other leaders, or go and work out what reporting is needed from those other stakeholders that are going to be asking you, how's the project going? When can I get the information? I mean, I would say give that person a demo. So when they say, oh, how do I get all these other stakeholders bought in? You say, well, here is a demo on a plate. Share it with them. And then that whole task is made so much easier. So hopefully that answers your question, Matt. You say, how do we ensure they're focusing on their evaluation in ways that align to our company product? Well, that's why you create the Post-it notes. So you can, it's basically landmine city, right? So some of those Post-it notes can be landmines. Not that that's a particularly cool thing to do, but you've got a way in which that your product can be successful. If it's something that works particularly well and you're confident you can make their project a success, I think you've every right to make sure that they don't forget about the things that you happen to be absolutely excellent at. So hopefully that answered the question.
Very well said, Mark. I can agree to that. The Post-it notes just unlock a whole nother world of understanding. Jacob asked, sales/pre-sales to customer service can be a challenge. Do you think buyer enablement and what you talked about helps work through that internal challenge too? And,
yes.
And then a follow-up, he said, I'm sorry, I meant the sales pre-sales to customer handoff. Yep.
Yes. So the handoff is fascinating because like I said at the start, one of the things, so we've for years had these silos and it's worked well. And there's been ways to hand off. By creating a buyer enablement function, or at least depending on the amount of what levers you get to pull, at least a common thread through those departments so that buyers feel that commonality regardless of at what stage they are, especially post-sale, because so many times many years ago, I worked for a company that just sold software that people could buy, and then if they wanted support, it was a different thing. There was basically no handover of any note. Now with SaaS software, of course, it's an incredibly important aspect of it. Buyer enablement really helps that because of the consistency of message. So your marketing content, of course, could be created by wonderful marketing teams. Now, we're not necessarily saying that pre-sales needs to go and start creating marketing content. It's a very different use case. Marketing teams are very good at that. They've got loads of tools to support them with that. But echoing those campaign messages as they come through in the demos that you provide has historically been quite difficult. You have to retrain everybody on all of the current campaigns. But imagine if you had a way to programatize that and have that spreading after into client success as well. And whether client success ends up going more down the expansion route, if you're trying to push towards more expansion, or retention, either way, you're wanting to provide they want to feel that same surprisingly helpful experience. So that's what I would recommend. And again, do connect with me. And great to go over it.
Thanks, Mark. Matt asked another question here. He said, continuing on the Post-it note work, in some organizations, understanding the buyer is a job that is owned by product management and or product marketing. Does Consensus have such a function? How do you get pre-sales and product marketing / management teams to partner effectively on buyer understanding and enablement? Oh. He also followed up by saying, by understanding the buyer, I mean the work of the win-loss analysis, creating buyer persona, buyer interviews on their buying experience, etc.
Oh yes, I love this. I love this. In fact, we just did this last week. So yes, a really insightful question, because if you don't create that connection, then things become more disparate. You're asking particularly about how do we understand it, for a lot of it, product management and product marketing own what has been for years called the customer journey. I think that's still very important, because that's what people experience when they use the product that you're providing. They have to understand the way in which it meets the requirements of their job and what it does for their organization. I think there is still, and at Consensus, to your question, yes, we definitely have those functions, and they're incredibly valuable. And they have an amazing feedback loop, like the customer advisory board, all sorts of different ways that we work with customers to make sure that the product is doing what it needs to. In terms of the journey that they take whilst trying to make their own project a success, because I'm very, very keen to make sure people don't just look at the software purchase. It's the project, one part of which is the software purchase. That journey is more focused on what buyer enablement does. But certainly, as Buyer Enablement Director, and working with Ty, of course, with our wonderful demo engine and all of the other things that he does, working very closely with our product team to make sure that we understand what features are coming out, what capabilities, how to demo them, and also why any of this stuff needs. We are, for all intents and purposes, the pre-sales department as well. So we've got a lot of needs. We have felt this. I felt this for years. Just the pains of being a pre-sales person. And so the way in which this can solve it for both ICs and leaders, we're very tuned into. Shout out, I guess, to Brian Zurcher and all of the rest of the team that look after the products.
Yes. Amazing people that do that at Consensus.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and ask a question as well, if that's all right.
Sure thing.
Again, I want to encourage you all, if you have questions, we have some time left if you'd like to ask them. But, thinking back as you've rolled this out at Consensus, what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way?
It's interesting. So there's different challenges that we would face at Consensus versus people would face in their own companies, unless they are a buyer enablement company as well, in which case, hi, friends. So because we are a buyer enablement company, we have a particularly strong focus on making sure that that buyer enablement thread weaves its way through any experience that buyers have with us. So it's kind of built in for us. Some of the challenges are that you may face when trying to understand the buyer how enabled your buyers are through all of the journey are things like the reporting tools that you have or the CRM. So you'll have a wonderful set of data about the way in which people interact with your website. The way in which they interact with all kinds of different nurture activities. You will also have great CRM data about deals, about who's on the deals, about who's dates and times and aspects and quotes and all kinds of different things that sales and pre-sales will look at. You'll also have the success of the project, how much is rolled out, the onboarding of the now customer, and the sales training and the finance training and all of that sort of stuff. And then on looking forwards, how is support going? What's it like to be using the software and considering either expansion, or perhaps you want to use more of the tool, or retention and renewals? Lining all of those different pieces up, unless you do it intentionally, can be quite tricky. That said, it's totally possible. There are very few tools that do it all the way through in terms of reporting. But I can imagine that if you have an external reporting, something like Power BI or Domo or something like that, you can pull the data and make a pretty good shape.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. And I think that would make it through all of our questions we've had so far today. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here for you and just share a few more things with you all today.
Sure
So
thing.
again, thank you very much, Mark, for that and the great insights. We want to make sure that you all are aware of something fun we're doing. It's the DEMOFEST game, where each session you attend and each session feedback survey you fill out, you get points towards winning one of our awesome prizes. Look at some of these amazing prizes you see here. Pretty cool that we're doing that. In addition to that, we're so excited to be bringing DEMOFEST on the road again. Some of you mentioned that you had some questions about it. Mark, you also plugged the London one, but we've had such a great time so far this year in San Francisco in March, and we can't wait to bring the event to Dublin, London, and New York City later this year. You can register to join us at any of these events at demofest.com. It's also linked in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We also encourage you to stop by our expo hall to visit our premier partners of DEMOFEST. Remember that there's no transfer of money whatsoever in this event. It's entirely free. So all our partners here have gone above and beyond to contribute to making this event successful for all of you. Again, thank you, Mark, and thank you for everyone for joining us for Do You Actually Help Your Buyers, the Buyer Enablement Scorecard. Your knowledge and insight were so great, and thank you for your participation, everyone, and your questions. Up on the screen, you can see our upcoming sessions. You'll automatically be pushed to the next session in your track, and you can switch tracks or sessions by toggling the agenda tab on the top left of your screen. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.